So, am I getting brain surgery? I'm Aiden, and welcome to A Pastor's Life for Me. Just over 4 years ago, I got a brain injury. There were two incidents that happened that day. The first one, I had set up a ladder and a door frame to do ceiling tile, but I climbed up the wrong side of the ladder and smacked my head on that door frame. Hit it pretty hard, so I had to go lay down for a couple hours. I couldn't see straight. But then a second incident happened that evening. I was walking down the stairs and sort of tripped, and I was doing the whole running while falling type of thing. And as I got to the fourth last stair, I thought, why don't I hop down the stairs instead of crashing and hitting my head on the floor? Now, we had recently moved into that place less than a month, and I didn't realize that the ceiling wasn't slanted at that particular place, but was in an L shape. And so I jumped straight up into the corner of the ceiling, then fell back and smacked my head on the stairs, and then fell down the rest of the stairs. It was a lot worse than what it would have been if I had just fallen. I got a nice gash in my head, had to go in, I got 4 staples put in, and I had a concussion. I began to have little minor problems from this, some headaches and migraines. Those only happened here and there, so it wasn't too bad. This took place in the middle of June. Fast forward then to September, where I was playing in a soccer tournament and got hit point blank in the head with a soccer ball and received concussion number 2. Again, some issues, little migraines here and there, but it wasn't really as bad as it could have been. Fast forward again to January, and I was yet again playing in another soccer tournament. Knowing that I had 2 concussions and I was still recovering from them, I did not use my head to contact the ball at any point in time. So when the ball was coming to me in the air at the perfect height to head it, I jumped up to chest the ball to control it instead of using my head. Some guy then decided to run underneath me, flipped me over, and I fell about 2 feet on top of my head. Concussion number 3. It was after this that I began to have problems. The migraines became more frequent. I would have them several times a week for a few hours, and I thought, oh, this is pretty rough, but you know, it's bearable. But as we got into the summer, things started to get worse. Instead of getting them randomly, I began to get them systematically every day by 3 o'clock for several hours, and when I got them, it would just put me out. After that, the migraines began to come even more frequently, happening in the morning as well. They would get more severe. And I had other side effects alongside that, like dizziness, lack of balance, sensitivity to noise and light, and basically any concussion symptom that they ask you about, I would have during those spells. This began to worry me as I was moving into the 3rd year of Bible college, and we had comprehensive exams, which involved a lot of memorization. I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but trying to memorize things while having headaches and migraines is not very easy. I was blessed that during the month of September, the migraines had minimized and they weren't very severe, and it allowed me to be able to memorize these comprehensive exams for the middle of October. I passed them no problem, and I was hoping that this was the end of my troubles. Around the time that I had them, I had not had a migraine in 2 weeks. This took place a year after my second concussion. So even a year after my first concussion, I'm having these major problems. But towards the end of October in 2017, things started to get worse again, and then it changed. I began to get the migraines again every day, sort of like clockwork, but one day towards the end of the month, I got a migraine that was different than the rest. This migraine was here to stay. In fact, I still have this migraine to this day. Since the end of October 2017 to right now, currently, July 29th, 2020, I have had the same migraine constantly. It has not gone away for even 1 second. When I work, I have it. When I make videos, I have it. When I prepare sermons, I have it. When I go to bed, I have it. When I wake up in the middle of the night, I have it. And the migraine, the intensity of it gets worse and better depending on the time of the year, but it doesn't matter when. I have had it constantly for the past 3 years. And so I've lived my life in constant pain. And when I say I have a migraine, I also have all those other symptoms as well. I was at a doctor's office to get a referral for my knee. I've torn my ACL. And on the door, they had a poster that said, "You may have a concussion if you have any of these 15 symptoms." And I read through the list. And so 3.5 years after I had gotten my first concussion, I had 14 out of the 15 on that list constantly. and the 15th one I got here and there, that 15th one being problems with sleep. I'm sensitive to light and noise. I have constant nausea all the time. I have a lack of balance. My eyes do not focus properly. Everything all the time is always somewhat out of focus. It's just not perfectly clear, and I could go on. And so about 6 months after this constant migraine began, I went to the doctor to try and get treatment for it. The original prognosis was that my brain just needed some time to heal, and so my doctor told me to wait about a year after my 3rd concussion before they would start using medication to treat it. And so in January of 2018, I went to my doctor and told him I'm having all these symptoms and things are not getting better. In fact, they're getting worse. The migraine is becoming more severe. I'm having troubles in my studies, and so I got sent off to do some tests. And one of these tests was a CT scan, and on top of my brain, on my right frontal lobe, they found an arachnoid cyst about the size of a golf ball. So I then got referred on to a neurosurgeon to get their specialized opinion on this. And with first talks with her, the subject of brain surgery arose. Hence the thumbnail of this video, am I getting brain surgery? The question was, is this cyst causing physical pressure in my head, resulting in these migraines and all these other symptoms? What's more, this cyst happened to be in the exact same spot where I got the gash in my head from my 1st concussion. So things seem to be pointing towards I need to have brain surgery to have this removed. So they booked me in for an MRI to get a clear picture. But due to wait times, that was going to be 3 months away. During this wait, they also did an eye appointment to see is there pressure on the back of my eyes, and if there were, there could be a risk of me having a brain bleed if I hit my head hard enough again. At this point, it is late November of 2018. So we jump forward 11 months and things still haven't gotten better. And in those 11 months, things have gotten actually worse. And they got worse to the point where I needed to split my 3rd year of Bible college into 2 years because my brain was just too slow to be able to keep up with the workload, to be able to process the information of having that many classes, and it was just difficult. I did not graduate the year that I was supposed to, but was scheduled to graduate the following year. And so I was now in my 4th year of Bible college, walking through the men's door when my phone rang. It was the secretary for my neurosurgeon saying that my appointment with her in February was now canceled because she was going to be leaving on maternity leave on February 1st. And I just remember my heart sinking. I'd had this constant migraine for over a year now, and it seemed like, hey, we're making progress for me to be able to start to get to recovery. And then all of a sudden the floor just gets pulled out from under me, and all this direction just halts. And so I go have my MRI, and then I go and see another neurosurgeon who has taken over her practice while she's on maternity leave. And he basically tells me, I'm not an expert in this area, but generally cysts do not cause problems, so I'm going to refer you on to a neurologist, and you're not going to be having brain surgery. And so at this point, me, my family, people who knew about my situation, were all confused because everything was pointing towards brain surgery. Then another doctor says, no, we're going to just treat it as if you have a migraine disorder. So I got referred on to a neurologist. And I saw him about 3 or so months later. And he said the same thing. Cysts generally do not cause problems. And so we're going to start treating your condition as if you developed a migraine disorder due to your concussions and that you still have post-traumatic concussion syndrome. Meaning, I have a brain injury, there's brain trauma in my head, and my brain does not know how to fix itself. And since I've had this constant migraine for so long, my brain has accepted that this is the new normal and does not actually even know what it means to not be in pain anymore. So we began trying these medications to try and give my brain some relief so that it could start to heal. The first 3 medications didn't really do anything, so we moved on to stronger and more direct drugs, hoping that they would work. The first one helped a little bit, maybe about 15 to 20% with the pain and some of the symptoms. And at this point, I began to have to start using a cane because my balance had just gotten so bad. I had torn my ACL, and so I could not rely on my right leg to support me, and I could not rely on my head to balance me, and I needed a cane to move around, and I used that for about 6 months. And I was on that medication for about 9 to 11 months. We increased the dose, and it didn't seem to really help. My migraines did not get better, and in fact, they began to get worse again. Normally, March through June is a nicer period for me, as the migraines aren't so severe, but in March of this year, my migraines got worse than they had ever been before. And they continued on into the summer until, well, about 2 weeks ago. while the migraines started to become less severe again. Let me remind you, this is still the same migraine. I've constantly had it. It just gets more severe or less severe. And so after these many months of this medication and it not working, we then switched on to another medication to see if that one would work better. That led into our last video, but why I hadn't posted videos in several weeks. That the medication did not agree for me, and then I ended up getting pretty sick from it. And if you want more of the details on that, watch our last video. And so about a week and a half ago, I stopped taking that medication, and I'm currently right now on no medication for my head. And I'm gonna stay off of medications for a few months to get a base level of what my symptoms are, what my migraines actually are without these medications before going on to the next one. And that somewhat takes us up to about right now. And so that sort of gives us a very broad overview of my health and my situation and my brain injury, but that doesn't answer the question, am I getting brain surgery? Whatever happened with that? And I wondered the same thing, and I know a lot of people wondered the same thing. I was basically told I'm getting surgery, and then I wasn't. And so about 3 months ago, I requested to my doctor to get a referral back to that original surgeon. And about 2 weeks after the referral, I got a call from her office. They booked me in for an MRI. I had the MRI, and then I had a phone call appointment with her around the beginning of this month in July. And she explained to me why they had originally suggested brain surgery, and why they were doing the test and going in that direction. And this was the first time that I had ever actually had an appointment with her. All the other information was relayed back to me by my doctor. And she explained I have this cyst on my brain, and if this cyst were causing pressure in my head, there would be a need to remove it. But since the cyst had not changed in 2 years, on the 2 MRIs, my cysts were identical. There were no signs that I actually needed brain surgery. And she explained that the eye appointment that I had to see if there was pressure on the back of my eye was actually to determine alongside the MRI whether or not I needed brain surgery. Whereas the information given to me sounded like I needed brain surgery and the eye appointment was just a way to speed up the process of getting it. And so she explained that it is likely that I just have post-traumatic concussion syndrome, that I've developed this migraine disorder, and that the current path that I am on is the best medical path to go with. And I was never really dissatisfied with the direction that I'm going with getting treatment for migraines. If that was my issue, then I am satisfied with the direction that my neurologist is taking. But then the big question in our minds was, why were they saying surgery in the first place? And so she cleared up a lot of questions that really should have been cleared up 2 years ago by the neurosurgeon that I did see, who referred me on to the neurologist. So I can officially now say to everybody that no, I am not getting brain surgery, but I'm going to be treated for a migraine disorder and post-traumatic concussion syndrome. You then may be asking, well, how long is this going to take? And the answer is, we have no idea. And there is a possibility that I could live with this for the rest of my life, that my migraines will never get better, and that this is just the new norm for me. But I'm okay with that. And I came to peace with that 2 years ago. If I have to live the rest of my life in constant pain with these migraines, I'm okay with that. Yes, it severely limits my brain function and my ability to do things. I have lost somewhere around 75% of my memory, I think. I can't really remember. And I've noticed that my creativity has plummeted. But I have peace about all that. And so these treatments will be a long time, and it will take years and years and years for my brain to recover, if it does at all. But just like I said in our last video, it doesn't matter what our situation is, it doesn't matter what kind of suffering that we are going through, we still need to be trusting in God. And my brain injury has been one of the biggest things in my life that has drawn me closer to God. And if I had to have a choice between not ever having this injury or being like I am today, I would choose being like I am today, because of how it has grown me, because of how it has shaped me. God does things in our lives for a purpose, and my head has served many purposes in my faith and me growing in life. And so if you're suffering right now, with whatever that may be, know that God has a purpose in it. And when Paul says that God works out all things for the good of those who love him, for those who are called according to his purposes, he means it. And I can say that my head has been worked out for good. And if the price of that is that I suffer with these migraines for my entire life, if I have this continuous migraine for the next 50 years, I'm okay with that. But how about you? And how about in your suffering? And with everything going on in your life, are you trusting God? And do you have faith that he is going to work out all things for your good, for your pleasure, and for his glory? So I hope that answered the question for you about whether or not I'm getting brain surgery. Hope that explained my brain injury well, how I got it, what it's been like living with it, and any questions that you may have had related to that. And if you have any more questions, please leave it in the comments. I'd love to be able to hear about it and to have a chance to answer it for you. Make sure that you also like this video and that you are subscribed to the channel. But until next time, remember to know the word, do the word, and share the word. But as always, we do it in love.